Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss one of the votes in Parliament yesterday that resulted in MPs voting against having a say in trade deals, which is a little bit funny, I thought, because wasn't Brexit all about taking back control? But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So yes, today, I know, is the day that the Russian report has been released, and it has been released at the point at which I'm recording this indeed, but I need time to go through it. So my thoughts on that will be first thing tomorrow. Besides, there was a pretty important vote in Parliament last night that also needs discussing. So Parliament voted on a number of clauses for the trade bill, but clause 4 was the key one, which would have given MPs oversight over any trade deals being pursued by the government. The clause was proposed due to the secrecy surrounding the government's talks with the US government in particular, especially given that one condition of the talks from the part of the US is that we, the British public, will not be allowed to see the deal even after it's been signed. It's not just that we're not allowed to know what's being discussed. We're not. We're not even allowed to see the deal when it is signed. Not until 5 years has passed. Like I've said before, I have no idea how that is even supposed to work. So the vote last night was supposed to make sure that it wouldn't. Now, before I go over the consequences of the fact that this was rejected, that the government got their way, and those consequences were both economic and political, of course, I want to point out what a certain Brexiteer by the name of Sir John Redwood had to say about it. So he tweeted, "Parliament had no chance to vote down trade deals we did not like when the EU did them for us." Now, there are two massive problems with this. First of all, he's like saying, well, we didn't get a say when we're members of the EU, so what have we really lost? I mean, no. The leaving the EU was supposed to put us in a better position. But I'll come on to that in a bit. The fact of the matter is it's completely untrue. Patently untrue. If people didn't know anything about how the EU worked before 2016, and most did not, then the last few years has surely at least introduced people to the concept of individual member states being able to block trade deals. Anyone who's paid any attention at all now, even a light touch, now knows that. It's happened before and it will happen again. So in actual fact, Parliament did have the chance to vote down trade deals it did not like when the EU did them for us. That Parliament chose not to is because it was perfectly happy with them. Of course it was happy with them. The UK was one of the three major players in the EU. Basically, trade deals went along the lines that we, France and Germany, principally wanted, but it had to satisfy everyone. Let us not forget that the agreement with, some countries in South America that has now sort of been agreed was blocked for quite a long time by Ireland, a small member state that nonetheless didn't like it and so went, we're not having this. So because people ignorant of political realities also learned something about their own parliament last year, I'll throw in as well. When it doesn't like something the government is doing, it has the power to stop them, as it did last year in, for example, opposing the no-deal Brexit that Johnson wanted in October. Which brings me on to the consequences of this vote. So Parliament has now voted to have no say whatsoever in our trade deals. None at all. Of course, it can change its mind at any time. If they wish to bring a motion in, say, September that changes this, then they can do. But last night was the opportunity to make sure that they were fully appraised of all developments and they got a say in what happened next, including, of course, the final signing. Because we are going to have a bizarre situation where if Boris Johnson is allowed, by still being Prime Minister, and he signs something with the United States government, and he wants to do this ahead of November, although, we don't know what's going to happen in the presidential election. Some people think, oh, it's definitely Trump. Some people think definitely Biden. We don't know. There's all sorts of things going to go on between now and then. But there is the risk that Trump is going to lose, which means Johnson really needs to get something signed certainly before January with the US, and he's rushing to do so. Now, when that happens, or if that happens, Parliament won't know what he's signed up to. Parliament, because of the vote last night, will not know what he's signed up to, not until 5 years after. So What does this mean? It means simply that if one of the MPs, and there are over 300 of them, if a single one of the MPs who voted against the clause, like Sir John Redwood himself, finds that a major employer in their constituency folds as a result of a disadvantageous trade agreement with another country, let's say the United States. Let's say it's a constituency with a major agricultural link, for example. The voters in that constituency should be reminded that their MP voted to have no say at all, to not even know what was going on. So if you, let's say you're a farmer and you want to know what's happening with the US trade deal negotiations at the moment, how's it looking, you can write to your MP. Your MP won't be able to answer you. And check how your MP voted, because if they voted against Clause 4 of the trade bill, they voted not to know anything about it. It's their fault, down to them, because they could have had involvement in the process. They could have received minutes of trade negotiation talks. You know, they could have been allowed to vote on the final agreement before it went through. They couldn't be bothered. And so the loss of that industry and of those jobs will be squarely down to the fact that they weren't interested. And it has to be said that not all Conservative MPs went along with the government line on this. Neil Parish, for example, who's a Conservative MP, even wrote an article ahead of the vote to explain the necessity for MPs to have a say on trade deals. His concluding argument was that governments do not normally have the final say on trade deals at all. He noted that the US Senate can change them, that the European Parliament votes on them. He argues, why should our Parliament have fewer rights than their counterparts in other democracies? As if it should even need to be stated. We can make our own trade deals, said the Brexiteers. We leave the EU and we can make our own trade deals. So why aren't we? Why are discussions being kept secret from us? Why have the very MPs who said and campaigned to say that they support Brexit vote against having any involvement in our trade deals? We had way more control over talks whilst we were a member of the EU. Way more control. Because then the details were not kept secret. So if you wanted to know how particular trade deals were going on because you thought it might impact you, or you were just interested, you could just easily look it up. If you struggled to find the information you wanted, you could write to any number of representatives. You could write to your MP. You could write to an MEP in your region. You could, if you were in Scotland, Northern Ireland or Wales, you'd have another representative you could write to as well. If you found out what you wanted to know and you didn't like it, then again you could make representations to your MEP, your MP, your MSP, wherever. You know, any number, at least 2 representatives you'd be able to contact about it. And in addition, if enough MPs in Westminster were not happy about the terms of the deal, then they would let the government know. They would just say, no, we're not happy with this. As indeed parliaments around the EU have done so. And if the government didn't listen to Parliament, then again, we know from last year, Parliament is sovereign in this country and it would speak a little bit louder. Oh, the government didn't hear us. I know, we're going to put forward a motion compelling the government to reject this deal. We don't like it. Now what do we have? Nothing at all. Boris Johnson now has the power to, in secret, conclude any trade negotiations, sign them off in secret, put them in place in secret without having to tell us anything more than will become apparent when the systems are put in place to, you know, accommodate the trade agreement. Take back control? My arse. There it is. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.